Hi. Bias is everywhere, especially in the workplace. And as women, we tend to feel very sensitive to any kind of bias that there is out there, whether it's gender bias, maternal bias, it is stereotypical bias, any sort of bias we are deeply aware of and perhaps act in ways to either try to avoid it or to overcompensate or anything that makes you act as though you're not really being yourself. And so I know in my own story of my past, when I was younger and I would have men who would say things to me, and a lot of it bordered on sexual harassment when I was younger. And those were different times back then. And also when I had been compared to a man, and so I was the bitch, or I was someone who should have been born with a dick. Yes, I was actually told that by somebody. And that was because my personality was very assertive. And so these biases that we have also were in my head, in the back of my mind. Oh, I shouldn't act like that. That's not really very feminine behavior. Maybe I need to change how I am. And these were at different times in my career where I would feel like, oh gosh, maybe it's not working because my personality really doesn't suit the position I have. And sometimes that was true. And so a lot of times we have all of this noise, all these stories back here that continue to feed into what it is we do on a daily basis. And some of us try to just exclude those voices altogether, right? I'm just going to take action and fuck it. I don't care. I can't hear it. I don't want to hear it. So most of us don't realize that we're doing that. And that was me for many years. So my name's TRACY Crossley. I'm a behavioral expert, author, and podcast host. And this is me and my YouTube. Hi. So, definition of unconscious biases and how they affect women in the workplace would be things like descriptive bias, which mean basically you're a female in a group of females. Prescriptive bias is where we have a tendency to believe there should be certain behavior coming from women. And that's a societal expectation and one that you have in your own head. And whether you fall in line with what that is, nice girls or everything, what is it? Everything nice like sugar and spice and whatever the heck that poem was, right? So a lot of us are trying to be people pleasers and please others, and others of us are rebelling against that. And so we don't realize that we're not really being ourselves, whether we're rebelling against bias or we are succumbing to it. Because what we're doing is we're letting outside factors rule what actions we take. And that doesn't really help you. It doesn't help you because at the end of the day or the end of your career, you want to look back and you want to feel a sense of accomplishment. Like you want to feel it, not just think it. Wow, I accomplished a lot. That's great. But to actually feel it because it was pleasurable. It wasn't painful. It wasn't overwork and underpaid. It was I felt valued because I gave myself value, and then others also valued me too. But a lot of times we don't value ourselves because of those biases. And we also will put others in a place to value us first before we value ourselves. And so all of this can be completely unconscious. You may not realize it's operating in your brain, and I didn't for a long time either. So when it comes to, let's say, gender bias, right, where, okay, you're a woman, so you're going to earn less, you're going to somehow have more sick days, you're not driven, whatever, all that BS, okay? And unfortunately, though, again, it gets in here. As long as things get in here, whether they're rational or irrational, means you're reacting to it. So maternal bias, that's another one. When it comes to being a mother, right? Taking time. I have a sick kid. I gotta go. I'm giving birth. I need time off. Whatever it happens to be, there is an unconscious bias that somehow you're not going to be equal to your male counterpart. And this is both men and women, But I'm really focused on what women do to themselves, and what we do with these things, how it makes us feel guilty or shame. And therefore, we react in a way that goes against what we want for our lives. So that, to me, is huge, because it not only impacts your career, it impacts you personally too. And that isn't really something you want, because as I said, you get to the end of this show that we're in, right? You want to feel like, hey, I really lived, rather than, hey, I was really limited, or hey, I never felt one accomplishment. They all felt empty to me. So what are some, let's say, strategies for overcoming this, right? So identifying and acknowledging your own bias, like listening to the stories in your head. What are the stories telling you in your head? How are they lying to you? How are they, saying things to you that aren't true, but you don't, I don't want to say defend yourself, because you never want to defend yourself, but you play into it because there's some part of you that believes that there is truth in it, okay? So first of all, becoming aware what is going on in here. Also, by doing that and paying attention to the culture you're in, and I don't mean culture so that you react to it or you control it, but being aware of it, okay? Because awareness is a huge thing. It is what tells you what you're doing, okay? And it tells you what's happening. So what you do is you can see your reaction to different people. If I become aware of my reaction to different people that I work with, I can be more aware of how I'm triggered, and perhaps I fall into believing these bias, right? So what else? Seeking out diverse perspectives and building inclusive teams is also a wonderful thing. And I think as women, we do a pretty good job of that, unless we feel threatened in some way. And when you feel threatened in some way, then you're not looking for that. You're just looking for a group think. And what's that going to do for you, right? And the other thing is, when it comes to hiring, do you hire you yourself? Hire people based on if they're male or female. What criteria besides their skill set? I look for a good fit in my culture, right? As an example. And I don't necessarily look for male or female. I look for who's going to fit in to what we do, so that we work as a team, so that everybody's going in the same direction. You can't always plan for you plan for the best, right? But you don't know sometimes when you hire people how that's going to turn out. And one of the biggest things is taking responsibility for yourself. Instead of being a victim to all this bullshit, it's to take responsibility. What is my part? How do I show up? Am I being myself? Do I trust myself as a leader? Do I trust myself as a female? Do I trust myself, period? A lot of us don't. We second guess ourselves. So when you start holding yourself to that self-responsibility, it makes a huge difference, because that's what's empowering. If I'm responsible for my actions and my whatever I'm saying, whatever I'm doing, okay, I am then in charge of myself. And that means I'm empowered, rather than I'm victimized by biases. You can choose it. A lot of us don't even know it's available. And that is freeing. It's emotionally freeing, and it gives you the opportunity to be emotionally available to the experiences you have as a leader. Okay? So basically, it leaves it all up to you. All of this is up to you. It's not up to other people. You get to make the choices in your life and decide what it is you want for yourself as far as an experience goes. So everybody take care. See you next time.